Real quick, Braden Montgomery's the headliner. Where do you see him landing? Do you have a landing spot that you see him going? Welcome into another TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs. We are inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Friday, July 12th, they finally let the kids host. Matthew Dawson, great work as always. I want to go around the room. We're joined by Nick Savage as well and Callie Garner. What were y'all's favorite parts of the show so far?
I'll go first. I think it had to be the last segment with Bronny. I think there was a lot of underlying jokes in there.
A lot of things on the bingo card that I did not have. So
I enjoyed that one. That one was fun.
Nick?
Yeah, it got to be Matthew's brother, Chris. We were trying to figure out who is who. They sounded the same. I got kind of confused at one point. I wasn't sure which one was on Zoom, but Chris Dawson, perfect Big Ten football takes.
I mean, you may be getting them confused visually, but the voices and the ball knowledge, you just know. You can tell when a Dawson is talking ball because they just know.
You flatter me, Luke. You flatter me.
Thank you for that, Matthew. Be sure to check that out. We also had some other pretty special guests.
Oh, absolutely. We had Jason Piacelli from Rock Boys Football, talking Big 12, talking ACC. Loved having him on.
And we also had the always wonderful and joking and youthful Ryan Brauninger. All that and more on the TexAgs Rewind. Be sure to check it out. Give me a breakout star for Texas A&M that not a lot of people are talking about.
I mean, if you want to look, I guess, in the defensive back room, I don't know who's going to start there, what that full room is going to look like. But I guess a couple names that I really like, and especially the way that secondary operated under Mike Elko, kind of bred some stars there for sure. I mean, I like what Marcus Radcliffe did a lot at San Diego State for sure. I like Donovan Sanders a lot. Will Lee, of course, at corner. I mean, any of those guys, if they end up stepping up, Jaden Hill, if you starts at nickel, any of those guys could definitely step up and play a valuable role to this team. And if they are playing a valuable role on a team that is a defense that looks really good and plays really good and really fast, I think you could see some ratings bump for sure. I think it's going to be reflective on how the team's going to be doing down the season. So I think looking at the top 100 players in college football, maybe one of those guys in the secondary kind of sneaks up there. Bryce Anderson, for example, who was insanely productive last year, not in the top 100. Maybe he's there by the end of the season as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of a new name, he's not necessarily new, but if you follow recruiting and you know what kind of high-profile athlete Ruben Owens was, I think a lot of A&M's productivity in the backfield is going to be a three-headed monster. You've got Amari Daniels, you have Le'Veon Moss, and Ruben Owens. There we go. The stats speak for itself. As a true freshman last year, Ruben Owens was highly productive. Obviously, when you're splitting carries with two other backs who are not only older than you and know the offense better than you, but they've also just, I think Ruben, it takes some time sometimes for guys to catch up from the high school game to get used to college. But once you get carries, you're going to see him flourish. And I think A&M's backfield, I think it's going to be a lot of Le'Veon Moss on early downs. Ruben Owens can do it all out of the backfield as well. You saw that a couple times against Miami. You saw that against Auburn as well. But sometimes you wish he would get more involvement. So for me, I know people know who Ruben Owens is, but I would not be surprised if he became the star out of the backfield for Texas A&M this season.
Do you think that has any chance of changing in the next couple of years with the addition of these teams?
Certainly, but I do think there's going to be a little bit of adaptation, and you're already seeing it with Oregon, who's, yes, they bring in Dylan Gabriel, Evan Stewart, all these other playmakers outside, but they're building from the inside out, and that's still how you're going to win college football, and that's still how you're going to win the Big Ten. We saw Michigan have that blueprint the past couple of years. Ohio State's trying to implement that as well defensively with Jim Knowles and what they're doing there, and even Will Howard and Chip Kelly coming in and ground and pound game. We'll see, though. I do think it's an interesting conversation that we're going to be having in September and October, right, when the weather's maybe a little bit better, but then you get into November, these conference games, the slate starts shaping up for the conference race, and we'll see who wins. I mean, it'll be awesome.
Nick just put the win total projection graphic up. Are there any teams who, are set to underachieve or overachieve? Teams who, you look at that line and you just, I like their schedule a little bit more than what they're getting credit for. I think I might go over. Or a team maybe like Penn State or Michigan who has a little bit of a tougher schedule, who you might see struggle with those win totals.
I'll actually say, in terms of how I'm feeling about them, I'll take Penn State to overachieve, right? I think even though 9.5, I feel pretty good about what they're bringing back. I love what they did coaching wise. Yes, you lose Manny Diaz to Duke as part of the domino of Texas A&M, but you bring in Tom Allen, right, former head coach of Indiana, who had a big effect in that defense and what they did the last couple of years. And then Andy Kotelnicki, from Kansas comes in, hoping to inject some explosiveness into that running game that they've been lacking against teams like Ohio State and Michigan. And we'll see how Drew Allard does, but I still feel pretty good about what they're doing and what they return defensively. A guy like Abdul Carter, right, freaky edge linebacker for them. Danny Dennis Dutton as well on the interior. Zane Durant. Those are all guys in that junior class that they had. That was a top 10, top 5 class in that cycle. One other team I'll give you in terms of overachieving is Rutgers. I just love their schedule. I was a guy that was tying them last year. Thought they'd go over their win total. I think this year they have the easiest schedule by far within the Big Ten.
And I kind of like the Big 12's realignment more than I like the ACCs and the Big Tens, because you kind of keep some geographical regionality and you introduce new rivalries or old rivalries, right? Like BYU and Utah, which are huge rivalries and they haven't played in so long, feels like, in Texas Tech, Arizona as well. So what are your thoughts on some of the realignment here in the Big 12?
I think they crushed it. You talk about like a realignment that made sense. The new Big 12 is awesome. Like, as a college football fan, you're going to see a lot of good college football games every single Saturday. I'm kind of with you. You look at the ACC and look at Stanford in the ACC, and it just makes you scratch your head. I look at the new Big 12 and say, this conference makes a lot of sense. And I think you're absolutely right. You look at a Utah-BYU rivalry that's going to be back. I think the Big 12 did a really good job. I think they were dealt a tough hand, obviously, with Texas, Oklahoma leaving. But I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this conference, not necessarily because you have a team that can go out and win a national championship, but you talk about every single Saturday, good college football games going into the fourth quarter. That's going to be the Big 12 this year.
Absolutely. We've got a clip. I know you've probably seen it, but for our audience who hasn't, there's a clip of Cam Rising being interviewed by some BYU Sports Network. And we want to play that clip and then get your thoughts on it.
I just don't really like BYU.
Jeez, Cam, this is normal. This is normal.
I feel like I'm definitely the red part of Utah that is the good side, I'd say. But
I don't know why people have a problem with that. Like, it's okay for you to say that.
That's what makes it great.
Yeah. I don't like seeing the Y anywhere. I don't really care for it. Yeah, it's definitely a rivalry.
Which is awesome, given the fact that you haven't experienced playing us yet, right?
Yeah,
like
but I was on
the
sidelines that last game, so
right.
I kind of got the sense of it.
You got a little bit of a flavor of it, right? But I mean, that game, always meant something. But now that the fact that we're all in a conference again, right, means that much more.
Real quick, Braden Montgomery's the headliner. Where do you see him landing? Do you have a landing spot that you see him going to most likely?
No, I think the A's are a good bet, good value bet. I think they're at 5. Mm-hmm. I've seen him get projected to 4, all the way down to, I think, the Red Sox at 12. Man, if Braden Montgomery goes 12, it just feels like somebody's missing something somewhere. Yeah. But it all depends on the team, what they need in terms of their major league roster and farm system roster, what they're willing to spend, because all of these picks are valued. What is the kid willing to sign for? There's a lot of rumors right now that J.J. Weatherholt may go first overall.
Wow.
Because there's, you listen to different people talk that he would be willing to take something like $6 million as the first overall pick. Well, that's like $2 million under slot value.
Yeah.
So those teams are saving that amount of money. Like, that's a value saver, and especially if you think that J.J. Weatherholt's not that. If as a scout or as an organization you think, well, we think he's really close to Travis Bazzana, like we're splitting hairs in terms of the player, or Jack Caglione or Charlie Condon. If you think they're that close and you can save $2 million on him, is that a risk that you take? And because that will set you up better for your later picks. So the depth of your draft will be better because you'll get more guys to sign because you have more money. So there's a lot that goes into the Major League Baseball draft because of the values at those different picks, and then because every organization has essentially a purse of money that they can spend through the top 10 rounds, and you don't want to be wasteful with that money. And then the more you can save, the more, like I said, the more it sets you up for better value later in the draft or a more aggressive pick later in the draft.
Well, let me ask you, like, you just mentioned it before, like the MLB draft is very, 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 very unique compared to like other drafts in the other professional sports. Like, what are some other things about the MLB draft that make it so unique?
Well, it's the only sport where you can draft high school players, right? And the biggest issue right now with the Major League Baseball draft, and I know why they did it, they wanted to get more eyeballs on it and make it a much bigger deal, much like the NFL and NBA drafts. But they put it in a space of the calendar that makes it nearly impossible to manage for not only the college coaches, but the current incoming freshmen.
Matthew, Callie, let's tell the people what to do.
Gotta like,
comment,
subscribe,
follow us.
How was that?
What should they comment?
They should definitely not glaze. Maybe comment goobers over geezers.
How about that? Let's keep it to goobers over geezers. Thank y'all so much for watching.